y'all, so now you know the basics of how to find a number of atoms and elements in a chemical formula. So we talked about subscripts, and the subscripts are the small numbers that go with the letter that's right in front of it. Now we're going to talk about coefficients and what that means. So I'm going to write a chemical formula with a coefficient. Okay, so the coefficient is this big number up top, and the coefficient gives you the number of the whole chemical formula. So this is how many of BaCl2s there are, and so you have to multiply that number by how many there actually are in the chemical formula. Okay, so let's find out. Let's do the elements first. So elements. How many elements do you have? You have Ba and Cl. So you have two elements, Ba and Cl. Okay, now if you just look at the chemical formula, you have 2 chlorines and 1 barium. Okay, but you gotta look at this coefficient. This coefficient is how many of this big formula you have. So you have 3 BlCl2s. And so you have to multiply that by the number you have of them. So you only have 1 Ba. So 3 times 1 is 3. So total you have 3 atoms of Ba. Okay. Now in the actual formula you have 2 chlorines. You have 2 of them because the subscript here. But you have 3 molecules of it. So you got to multiply this 3 by the 2, and 3 times 2 is 6. Okay, so you're multiplying the coefficient by the number of atoms that you have in the chemical formula. And then, of course, the total number you have of atoms is 9. Okay, so again, the coefficient you're going to multiply by the original number you have of each one of these elements. Okay, let's try another one. Let's just do 2H2O. Okay, so now you have 2H2O. You have a coefficient, which is going to be the big number at the very beginning. Okay, and then you have a subscript here that tells you the number of hydrogens you have. So again, let's do your elements. You have 2 elements, H and O. Okay, now this H has a subscript of 2, which means you have 2 hydrogen, but you have 2 molecules of water. So you're going to multiply that by that 2, and you're going to multiply that by that invisible 1. So 2 times 2 for your hydrogen is going to be 4, and 2 times 1 of your oxygen is going to be 2. Okay, so you have 4 atoms of hydrogen and 2 atoms of oxygen. So for a total of 6. Okay, so again, that coefficient is going to tell you how many molecules you have, so you have to multiply those by how many atoms you have in the original formula. All right, let's try something else. Now sometimes you will see parentheses in your chemical formula. So MgOH2. Okay. So what this means is this little subscript is going to go with everything that is in the parentheses. So let's do our elements first. Okay, you have Mg, you got 1 capital letter there, Mg, capital letter here, O, and a capital letter there, H. So you have 3 elements. You have Mg, O, and H. Okay, now there's no number next to Mg, so you only have 1 atom of magnesium. Okay, now you have 1 atom of oxygen and 1 atom of hydrogen in the parentheses. But this little subscript here outside the parentheses is going to multiply by both of these. Okay, so you originally have 1 oxygen, but there's this subscript on the outside, so you're going to multiply that. So 1 times 2 is 2, And then again, 1 times 2 is 2. Okay, so if you have a parentheses and you have a number outside of it, you are going to multiply everything that is inside the parentheses. So your total atoms is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 total atoms. Okay, let me just give you a more different, let's put those both together and do, let's see. Let's do 2, we'll just borrow that, MgOH2. Okay, so now you have a coefficient and a subscript here. Okay, so what that means is you've got two of this chemical formula here. You have 2 molecules of it. Okay, so let's identify our elements. You have Mg, O, and H, so you got 3 elements. Mg, O, and H. Okay, now we've got to figure out how many of each we have. Okay, so this big 2 is going to multiply on each one of these different elements because it's a coefficient. Okay, so 2 times this 1 for Mg, you're going to have 2 of those. Okay, now this little coefficient here, or sorry, subscript here, is going to multiply from the O and the H. So you have 2 and 2. But wait, you also have 2 of those because you have 2 molecules of it. So you're going to multiply this 2 by the 2 here, so that's 4. And you multiply this big 2 by the 2 here, which is also 4. Okay, so kind of take a look at these numbers. Okay, all I did was multiply these originally numbers by 2 because now I have 2 molecules of them. So Mg only had 1 in the original, but now I have 2 molecules of MgOH2, which means that now I have 2 of them. Okay, same thing with O. Originally I had 2, but now I have 2 molecules of that, so I'm going to multiply that by 2, now I have 4. Same thing with H. Originally I only had 2 H's, but now I have 2 molecules of that compound, so I have to multiply it by 2, which I get 4. Okay, so hopefully this helps you get your assignment done today. If you have any more questions, you can always put a private message into your assignment and I will get to it as soon as possible. Thanks guys, hopefully this helps.